but I. Well, how
Hola.
are you?
Vamos a empezar. Ok. Sí. Y bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Welcome in. Hola, Megan. Hola, Brian. Y hola, Kathy. Sí, hay otras personas que están aquí. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas. You can leave yourself on screen or off screen. Como quieran, however you want. No nos importa. It doesn't matter to us. Whatever you're comfy with is good. Okay. Bien. I do record for those of you who are new or who are coming back after a while and who forgot. I do record every class. So, you know, you got to miss class because XYZ is happening in your house. You just don't feel good. You know, you just don't feel, well, whatever, lo que sea, whatever it is. We'll always record class so that you can check it out on YouTube. And the only people I send the link to is the people in class. You know, once I am going to tell you, once in a while, I get some weird Russian bot. And the only reason I know is I got a comment once from somebody. God knows who this person was, but there are all these Cyrillic letters. I'm like, oh God, some Russian bot found me. I know, but I don't send the link out to anybody except people who are in class. But if you ever miss, you can go on YouTube and watch a class if you had to miss, you know, para que sepan, so you know. Okay. Bueno, y bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Vamos a empezar con la clase. We're going to begin with class. And, you know, for first class, I always like it to be a little bit more informal, a little more get to know you. And there are a few new people or a few people coming back after a while. So we'll give you some small group opportunities to experiment a little bit, just un poquito, a little bit. Some of you had sent me some requests for topics. And one thing that came up a lot for this fall was travel related vocabulary and just general stuff that kind of came up over and over and over again. So we'll probably try to weave some of that in for this fall. But if there's something else that comes up, you know, díganme, tell me. I think commands came up again, right? See, Pat, see, a little bit of subjunctive. I mean, enough of the stuff that like you hear a lot. Not every rule on the subjunctive, but, you know, we'll weave that all in. And if you have other ideas or other vocabulary that you desperately want to be covered, send it to me in email and for sure, we'll work things in. Okay. Bien. Vamos a ver. Okay. ¿Qué vamos a hacer esta noche? What are we going to do tonight? We're going to start with a kind of a guessing game. Juego de adivinar. Sí. We're going to see, and we probably won't play all of this, but we'll play parts of it. Because some of the topics I think are less useful, but some are useful. We're going to play one of the greatest hits of common errors. See if you can guess how to fix the common error. We're probably going to go about through maybe 6 of these, and we're going to fast forward. We're not going to play the whole thing. I will send you the link because I do send, for those of you who are new, a link. Usually I send it the day after class, and this link will have all of the links to all of the videos we played during class and all the links to any, like if I use some of my own like photo prompts, you know, for you to work on conversation, it will have all that stuff in it. But this is kind of a continuation of errores comunes, and we'll see, because actually one of these errores comunes is going to come up in our small breakout room chit chat later on. Un poquito más tarde, a little bit later. So let's see if you can guess some of these. And once I put the share screen on, I may not be able to see if you're raising a hand, so you'll have to shout out if you do have a question or an answer or, you know, lo que sea. Okay. Errores comunes. Pueden ver. Somebody give me a shout out. Can you see errores comunes?
Sí.
Parte 2. Parte dos, part two. Okay, vamos a ver. We are going to cut some of this a little bit short, but we're going to see, we're going to play. Vamos a ver y vamos a escuchar algunos errores comunes. We're going to see some of our common errors and see if you know how to fix them. Oh, let's see if you know how to fix them. Some of these are more important than others, which is why we're going to kind of cut some.
Hay cosas que los estudiantes de español dicen todo
I'll
el
put on
tiempo,
subtitles.
pero que los nativos
Subtítulos.
no diríamos.
There are things you say, but
Suena
natives don't say it.
y no
It sounds
está
right,
mal,
and it's not really
pero
horrible, but
hay algo que no está bien si un nativo lo escucha.
something about this
Porque
that the
los
native
nativos
says this
no
sounds weird.
decimos eso. Así que vamos al primer error. El primer error es en la otra mano. Normally, you translate this because in English you say on the other hand.
En la otra mano, on the other hand, pero no es así. On the other hand, ¿cómo se expresa? ¿Hay alguien que sepa?
An otra mano?
Oh, just otra mano?
Mano. That's what I'd say.
Okay. ¿Otra idea? ¿Other idea? Y no es en la, sabemos, we know, que no es en la otra mano. This is a literal translation.
Otro, por otro lado?
Esteban.
Really on the other side.
Muy
No.
bien, muy bien. Muy bien. Ok, vamos a
Pero en
escuchar.
realidad en español no decimos eso. Quizás alguna vez has escuchado a alguien decir, me gusta mucho el español, pero
I like
en la
Spanish,
otra mano
but on the other hand,
es muy complicado de
it's
aprender.
hard to learn.
No, me encanta esta ciudad.
I love this city.
En la otra mano es muy
On the
caro.
other hand, it's expensive.
Podríamos entender esto.
We could
Sin
understand
embargo,
it,
no
he
es la forma
says,
correcta.
but
En
it's not
realidad,
really right.
Debes decir por otra parte o por otro lado. Me gusta mucho el español, pero por otra parte o por otro lado es muy complicado de aprender. Otro error muy común de los estudiantes es decir, me siento curioso, me siento curioso. O a veces también dicen, estoy curioso. Por ejemplo,
para hablar de curioso, I feel curious, I am curious.
That one that
Perdón,
one
I
that
did
I've
the
come
flip out. Why
across.
does this only happen at nighttime? Okay, I'm going to let it roll. I'm just going to let it roll. It's when I interrupt it that I mess up, and I don't know why it doesn't like this at night. Daytime, I can do this, and no hay ningún problema, o ningún problema. No hay ningún problema, pero ahora sí. Okay, I'm just going to let it roll. Okay, a ver.
ejemplo, ¿y qué haces cuando vas a casa de tus papás? Solo me siento curioso. O solo estoy curioso. De hecho, nosotros decimos tengo curiosidad o me da curiosidad.
It gives me
Ejemplo,
curiosity.
¿qué haces cuando vas a casa de tus papás? Me da curiosidad.
Correcto.
Oye, ¿cómo es la relación con tu hermana? Solo tengo curiosidad.
I'm just
Pero
curious.
no decimos, me siento curioso. No. Otra muy común es decir así. Así. Y este error es muy común porque normally you translate so as así.
Así.
So normally you will think that when you say so, you can say así. But we don't really say that. No decimos eso. Lo más común es decir más o menos. ¿Sí? Más o menos. Pero también tenemos otras alternativas. Podemos decir 2-2, 2-3 o ni bien ni mal.
Neither good nor bad.
Por ejemplo, ¿cómo te sientes hoy? 2-2. Por otro lado, también hemos visto en algunos libros que dice así, así. O también en
Y
unas
es así.
lecciones
You see
de
that in a lot of textbooks, you
algunas
really do.
apps en los celulares. Pero así, así, no lo dicen los nativos. Al
Así
menos
by
no
itself,
en muchos
yes.
países. Así que
Muy
creo que es
común.
mejor usar estas alternativas. Es correcto. Vamos al siguiente error. ¿Cómo dirías en español after walking? O
And
¿cómo
this is what's going to
dirías,
come up
I
soon.
stopped smoking? En la escuela aprendes que la terminación ing de gerund, in Spanish it is either ando or yendo. So sometimes people say después de caminando or dejé fumando, which actually is incorrect. So the correct way would be después de caminar or dejé de fumar. And now here's a quick tip for you to remember easily. In Spanish, we never used the gerund after a preposition. So de is a preposition.
Right.
Después de, then infinitive. Después de caminar. Or dejar. Dejar de actually needs this preposition. Dejar de hacer algo, to stop doing something. Dejé de fumar. Actually, Diego is super right. The preposition de give us that ing ending. For example, me voy de fiesta. I will go or I go partying. Me voy de compras. To go shopping.
Shopping, pero de
Many
compras.
other, voy de visita.
I-
To go visiting. I
Sí.
go visiting.
So ing isn't always ing
Another
like
common
ando
mistake
yendo.
is to say posible or possibly.
This
Por
one's kind of
ejemplo,
easy to fix.
Este año voy a Perú, posible. O posible está en su casa. Es muy común. Recuerda que possibly es traducido como posiblemente.
Correcto, posiblemente.
¿Cuál es un
Possibly.
adverbio? Ujú. Esa terminación en inglés, ly, nos indica que es un adverbio. Por eso, en español tenemos el sufijo mente, posiblemente. Otro ejemplo es decir, si podría. Por ejemplo, si podría, te ayudaría. Otro error común relacionado a esto es unir condicional sí con
This
posible.
one's a little more
Si posible,
complicated.
te visito el siguiente mes. Si posible, te visito el siguiente mes. ¿Por qué está mal, Diego? Pues en este caso no diríamos sí posible.
If
Puedes
possible.
usar otras alternativas, como por ejemplo, si tengo la oportunidad. Si tengo la
If I get
oportunidad,
the chance.
te visito el próximo mes. Otra forma es decir, si es posible. Si es posible, te visito el siguiente mes. Y el último error, al menos de este video, es cuando se combina el condicional sí con la terminación del condicional en la misma
This one's kind of
oración.
complex, so if you don't get it right
¿A qué
away,
me
don't worry
refiero?
about it.
Algunos estudiantes dicen, si podría, te ayudaría.
You need
If I
subjunctive.
could, I would
But it's a
help you.
hard subjunctive to use.
Aunque en español, después de un sí, tenemos que usar el imperfecto de subjuntivo. Si pudiera.
If I
Si
were
pudiera,
able, si
te
pudiera,
ayudaría.
I would help you.
Okay? So remember, after si, you don't use a conditional. No. You use un imperfecto de subjuntivo.
Okay.
Eso es todo por hoy. Muchas gracias por ver
Okay,
este video.
and that last one is pretty complex. So if you don't get that last one, no se preocupen, don't sweat it, because that one is a complex one and it's a very grammatically oriented one. But that thing of using, not being able to use ing, ando, yendo, when we use it for a, when we use it as a noun is pretty important, or being able to use, use the right verb form after a preposition. So en, after words like en, de, a, con. If you ever use a verb behind, right next to, right after one of those prepositions, de, en, a, con, we can't use ando. We have to use the infinitive itself. Okay, and we're going to take a little quick look at that soon. Pronto, soon. But, and I'm sorry I couldn't stop and quiz you like I wanted to, but, Zoom was going to ding me. Why does it only happen at night that I get dinged on that? ¿Y por qué pasa así? No sé. ¿Es Cox? Quizás. Who can I blame? Okay. Okay. A ver. Bueno, vamos a continuar. Since this is a new class session, we're going to do some really easy dip your toe in the water, some easy stuff, and some good stuff to get to know you kind of information. So I thought it would be kind of a fun thing to do to talk about hobbies. Oh, to get to to get to know what kind of hobbies, what kind of things other people in your group like to do. Because, as we know, sí, para mí, los pasatiempos son importantes. Yeah, hobbies are important. I think it's an important part of your life. Es importante tener interés en actividades, ¿verdad? Sí. Es importante tener interés en actividades que no tienen nada que ver con trabajo, el trabajo. They have nothing to do with work, okay? And maybe for somebody, well, now that I think of it, something that for me is a hobby somebody else might consider work. Quien sabe, who knows? But let's think about that, because you know what? Sometimes when we talk about work, we're going to watch one other little video just to give you some, to seed the clouds, as it were, to give you some ideas of what you can talk about, okay? Sometimes you might say, my hobby is, my hobby is art. Ooh, right? Then it's just arte. Yeah. El arte. You might say my hobby is cooking, which it could be la cocina or la gastronomía or cocinar. So sometimes to talk about our hobbies, we might use a noun like el arte. But sometimes we might use a verb form, like cooking, knitting. Yeah. So it might be photography, a noun, la fotografía. It might be an activity, in which case we're going to use, in most cases, el infinitivo. Okay. Bien. So just to kind of seed the clouds and get you comfortable, as kind of a reminder, we're going to watch a part of this, probably not the whole video, but a little bit, to kind of get you going with some ideas. I'm going to send you out into some smaller groups to talk a little bit, so you can talk in a smaller group very comfortably. And then we'll come back and share some ideas or questions that you might have had about that activity, la actividad. Okay, vamos a hablar de esto, and I'm going to let this guy do his magic, talking about hobbies. And actually, I am going to preface before I start the video with this. You do, and I want to say this is recent. How recent? Maybe in the last 10 years, there has been a proclivity, a tendency to kind of adopting that English word of hobby. You do hear people both in Mexico y en España y en Colombia. You do hear people adopting this Anglicism of the word hobby, but that's not the official word for hobby. I mean, if you want to be strict about the Spanish rules about things, but they will not use hobby in this video. But para que sepan, just so you know, sometimes you will hear native speakers use that word hobby. It's like kind of they're adopting some technology words. So don't be surprised if you hear it. Pero aquí, but here, they're going to show you some patterns you might use or think about.
This video will present the basic vocabulary for hobbies in Spanish. We will also use these words in sentences and questions that you may need when talking about this topic.
And pastimes is the key. There's the official word, pastimes.
First, we will show you a vocabulary list for hobbies in Spanish. Listen and repeat. Pintar.
Painting.
Hacer ejercicio.
Exercising.
Hacer manualidades. Hacer artesanías.
Doing arts and crafts.
Montar en patineta.
Skateboarding.
Andar en patineta. Tocar la guitarra.
Playing guitar.
No.
Practicar surf.
Surfing. You may hear surfear also.
Tejer.
Knitting.
Escuchar música.
Listening to music.
Cuidar de las plantas.
Oh, taking care of plants.
Tocar el violín.
Playing violin. Playing for an instrument is tocar.
Leer libros.
Reading.
Pescar.
Fishing.
Jugar fútbol.
Playing soccer.
Bailar.
Dancing for the ballroom people.
Hacer yoga.
Doing yoga. Yeah.
Ver televisión.
Watching TV.
That's a hobby.
Tomar fotografías.
Taking photographs.
Montar bicicleta.
Bike riding.
Correr.
Running.
Tocar el piano.
Playing piano.
First, most hobbies in Spanish are usually verbs in infinitive, so they end in ar, and ir. Second, there are specific phrases and questions to this topic, such as
leyendo, but leer.
¿Cuál es tu pasatiempo favorito? Whose answer would be, mi pasatiempo favorito es, plus a list of hobbies in Spanish. For example,
so you insert
¿cuál es
something.
tu pasatiempo favorito?
Mi pasatiempo favorito es hacer ejercicio.
¿Cuáles son tus pasatiempos?
Mis pasatiempos son leer libros y pintar.
It really should be mis
Besides,
pasatiempos
the
there.
verb gustar, to like, is very important for this topic. We will explain the basics on this verb next. So please stay with us.
This
and
you
pay
probably
careful
know
attention.
a lot about, but we'll do a little review.
Sentences with the verb gustar will begin with an indirect object pronoun, then the verb gustar, and finally the subject or thing we like. That is a pastime in this case.
And gusta with
These indirect object
verbs.
pronouns are words like me, te, nos, os, and le, each one related to the person or people that like something. The verb gustar will be conjugated as gusta. This way, sentences about pastimes will look like this. Me gusta jugar fútbol.
I like to play, or I like playing. It's the same.
Me
Jugar,
gusta bailar
playing a
y
sport.
hacer ejercicio.
Gusta with activities.
Le gusta cuidar de las plantas.
Gusta with one activity or
Nos
more
gusta
than one
tomar
activity.
fotografías.
Oh, we like taking pictures.
Os gusta escuchar música.
Oh, that's for Spain only. Os gusta. You guys like. Yeah.
Les gusta pescar y cocinar.
Oh, they like to fish and cook. And gusta
We
with
could emphasize on
activities.
who likes each activity by adding a prepositional phrase like a mí, a ti.
And you're talking about yourself, so we can kind of skip through some of that.
No me gusta
Okay.
jugar videojuegos.
And to make it negative, a no in front, right?
A
Marilyn?
vosotros
Sí,
no os
dime.
Una pregunta, por favor. Why, when they use more than one activity, why not make, okay, you're laughing.
As a verb.
I'm not laughing. I'm saying,
Because-
it's a golden question.
It had a
Hey,
verb.
Es una pregunta muy típica because it's a verb. And so this is easy to answer. I know usually gustan
Refers
is
to
what we
more
use
than
for
one.
plural. So if you got more than one activity, why isn't it gustan? Pero no es así. And there's a correct way to use así. No es así. It's not like that. No es así. Con verbos. No importa. It doesn't matter. No importa la cantidad de actividades. Si es una actividad, si hay dos actividades, no importa. Es gusta singular. Only with that activity thing can you put in like lots of activities. ¿Y por qué? Why? I can't give you the why. Es así. It's just that way. So if you say you like doing, oh, why did we listen to that first thing? Because doing in English, sí. Taking photos, cooking, playing guitar, pero en español el infinitivo, but in Spanish we're going to express this as the infinitive. Okay. So I cannot tell you why. It is just that way. Es así. When we use activities, if they will always use gusta singular. But if it were truly plural, un ejemplo. Bueno, por ejemplo. Me gustan las flores. Entonces sí, me gustan las flores.
Es más, es más, un
Yeah. So it's got to be a noun to
Okay.
use the plural gustan. ¿Sí? Okay. Bien.
Gracias.
Bien. But I cannot give you a why. It is just that way. Yeah. So if you name more than one activity, when you go into your small groups, it stays me gusta. I like. Or me encanta to bump it up, but we'll
Gusta
talk
tocar
about
la
that a little bit
guitarra.
later. And they're showing us some negatives.
A ellos no les gusta tejer. Now that we have explained a little on how gustar works, please pay attention to this group of pictures, including questions and sentences using hobbies, likes, and dislikes in Spanish.
Okay. Unos
Ver
ejemplos, some
televisión.
examples.
Ver videos, ver series. ¿Cuál es tu pasatiempo favorito?
Mi pasatiempo favorito es ver series.
Un ejemplo.
Jugar videojuegos. Mi pasatiempo favorito es jugar videojuegos. ¿Cuál es el tuyo? Practicar deportes. ¿A ti te gusta practicar deportes?
Sí, me gusta jugar fútbol y baloncesto.
Escuchar música. ¿A ellos les gusta escuchar música romántica?
Sí, les gusta todo tipo de música.
Bien.
Tocar piano, tocar guitarra, tocar el violín. ¿Te gusta tocar guitarra?
No me gusta, pero me gusta tocar el violín.
Bailar.
A nosotros nos encanta bailar en nuestro tiempo libre.
Okay, y vamos a pausar aquí. We're going to pause here because this is a way of elevating or upping your game, right? Instead of, because there are a lot of ways to talk about our hobbies. Mi pasatiempo favorito es, my favorite my favorite hobby is, or we can express it as me gusta, I like, or we can up that, increase the intensity by changing me gusta to me encanta. Me encanta. So that word encanta, sí, la palabra encanta es muy importante. Es una manera de hacer el sentimiento más fuerte, más intenso, ¿sí? Me encanta, I love. Instead of I like it, I love it. But that follows the same rule as me gusta, me encanta, okay? Just different there. But what I wanted to point out was that when we talk about knitting, painting, whatever, we're not going to use the ing idea, yeah? We're going to use the infinitive, ¿sí? Vamos a usar el infinitivo. Okay, ¿entienden, no?
Sí.
Bien, okay. Voy a usar breakout rooms. We're going to use breakout rooms. We're going to divide. And, we're going to let you talk about just some things you like. And, you know, oh, you may even react with, oh, I don't like that. I don't, no sé, no sé, bien, quizás 4 cuartos. Well, maybe put it out to 4 rooms. Let's see how that divides out so I can make sure I don't have too many people in one room. Bien, okay. A ver. Vamos a ver. Okay, yeah. And we've got a good mix there. Some of you will be the oldie but goodie people. Good for you. See, regulares, see? And some of you will be some of the new folks, and that's good. It's a good chance to get to know some people. When I open up the Zoom room, I want you to just talk about what you enjoy doing for fun. For fun. ¿Alguna pregunta antes de empezar? Any question before starting this? No? Es fácil. This is designed to be super easy. Sí, Esteban, dime.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, está bien.
Instead of me gusta, is there a workaround by using the verb disfrutarse?
Oh, just
or,
disfrutar.
Yeah,
just
disfrutar.
disfrutar.
Yo disfruto el trabajo con
Sí.
whatever.
But there's one little tweak I'm going to give you with that one, Esteban.
Sí.
Disfrutar means to enjoy.
Sí, yes.
Yeah. Actually, there is one other little workaround, which I'll give you shortly. But disfruto de.
Oh, okay. You need that.
Disfruto de. And what do you now know? Oh, it's a golden question. What do you now know? What do you need to use? What kind of word?
Infinitive.
Infinitive, yes.
Infinitivo, exacto. Que listos son ustedes. How smart you guys are, right? So, disfruto, por ejemplo, disfruto de tomar fotos con mi cámara digital. Y un compañero, a companion in your group may say, sí, me gusta la fotografía, pero disfruto de tomar fotos con mi celular. No con la cámara, sino con el celular. ¿Ok? Por ejemplo. ¿Bien? ¿Ok? ¿Está bien? I think you're probably only going to need 5 minutes, 5 minutos, ¿sí? Para hablar un poquito. Pero hablen, por favor. Do speak, please, about what stuff you like to do, just to get to know each other, because we've got a few new people in the group. When I open the rooms, you're going to hit the join button, or it won't send you into the room. Hay otra pregunta. Any other question before we go off? ¿Sí? No? No? Nada? Okay. Practiquen un poquito, por favor. Okay, you should see a join button. Ahorita, right now, you should see the join button. Y voy a darle 5 minutos. Vale, bueno. Voy a usar mi reloj para medir la cantidad de tiempo que, sí, ellos necesitan 5 minutos para hablar un poquito el uno al otro, one and the other. Y van a hablar de pasatiempos. Pasatiempos. Yo tengo muchos pasatiempos. I have many pastimes. No voy a hablar de esto hasta que regresen los otros. I'm not going to talk about that until everybody comes back, because otherwise it won't. Otherwise, while they're in their Zoom rooms, they won't hear. They won't be able to look back and see what I'm saying, because they're paying attention to each other. ¿Sí? Bueno, es buena idea practicar un poquito hablando en grupos pequeños, ¿sí? Hay menos estrés. There is less stress. Hay menos estrés cuando hablamos con 2 personas, con 3 personas, enfrente de un grupo de 12 personas, in front of a group of 12 people. Causa estrés. Wow, it can cause a little bit of stress. So, I like people to get a chance to get to know each other, do a little meet and greet and chit chat to get to know what people like. Es amigable, it creates some feeling of goodwill with everybody, to get to know the likes and dislikes of other people in that bigger group. Okay, there will be a little corollary to this. After we come out of this and kind of share some reflections and share questions that people had while they were talking, we're going to amplify this to ask people to add on some extra, more complicated information to this idea of hobbies. In short, we're going to ask people to talk about something interesting that happened while they were doing a hobby, but that's going to involve talking about past events. So we're not going to do that today on the off the cuff small group. This is something I want you to have some time to think about, so you can maybe look up some vocabulary if you need to, or flesh out your ideas once you have a little bit of extra time to do that. And we'll give you the scaffolding, the information behind the scenes to know how to do that grammatically, which will not be all that hard. But we want to make today's activity an easy and non-threatening one. Okay. Y algo para saber, para conocer a las otras personas del grupo, and something to get to know other people in the group. Sometimes you can talk with somebody for ages, but if you never talk about their hobbies, you may find out you have things in common, or things that are interesting enough to you that you want to ask them questions about why they have that hobby, or how they got interested in it, or lo que sea. Bien. Nos queda un minuto. We got about 1 minute left. Espero que sea suficiente tener una conversación en 5 minutos. I hope this 5-minute thing gives people enough time, but I think it will. Creo que sí. And if not, people will let me know, which is fine. La verdad es dura. Wow. Yeah. Truth is hard. Sí, para que sepan, so you guys know, I get a countdown when I send you in breakout rooms, and it starts to do a countdown on my watch. Tells me how much time we have left. Y vamos a reunirnos, and it gives you about 30 seconds to close down and wrap up your information. So it gives you a minute before it brings you all back together. Gives you a minute to wrap up and tie all the loose ends together. Okay, 30 segundos. Nos quedan 30 segundos. We've got about 30 seconds left. Vamos a ver. Wow, I've got to pull up my other little things here. Mis otras cosas. Bien. Okay. Vale. Uy. It's going right up to the end here. Okay. Aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody back. ¡Ay, fantástico! Muy bien, muy bien. Espero que ustedes hayan compartido. I hope you guys have shared, sí, información extra sobre sus intereses, ¿verdad? Ok. Voy a empezar. I'm going to begin. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Is there any kind of question after coming out of this little talking group? Anything that you didn't quite know how to say or you had a little question on? Sí, Federico, dime.
I'm wondering, we found ourselves coaching each other. And so it was more than just sharing, but like I started off with the sentence and I said, hey, have I got this right? Da, 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 da. And then I got a lot of input from the other people. My point is, I think in our case, we could have taken twice as long, like maybe 10 minutes. But I don't know how the rest of the group feels. That's just what I felt from my group.
Dígame, tell me. Más tiempo. ¿Sí o no? Quizás sí, quizás no. Okay, little did you know, Fred. Little did you suspect. We're going to take this and we're going to kind of amplify it for next week. Okay. So what I was saying for those who will watch later, anybody who couldn't, come in tonight, is that we'll take, this is our dip the toe in the water. Because the first thing back, you're kind of rusty after a couple weeks off. Hey, así es. So it is. Así es. So we give you an easy thing and a thing that everybody's comfortable talking about. But we will flesh this out and give you something slightly harder, but not super hard, slightly harder to talk about with your hobbies for next week. Okay. La semana que viene. But we're going to give you this week, between now and next week, to think about, what might I want to say? And anytime I give you an assignment like this, to say, come back and next week we're going to do a session. This will take longer. The one next week will take longer, okay? Because it's going to be a little more complex. And I will probably send you out for more than 5 minutes and probably just in groups of 2, because that's the way that's going to go. Okay. So, okay. Bien. You will definitely need more time for that, but we will amplify and add on to what you talked about today. And you'll get a chance to prep because you'll probably need that chance to prep for next week. Okay. Pero gracias, Federico. Sí. Thank you. And I'll make sure I give you enough time next week because you'll need it. Everybody will need it. Bien. Okay. Otra pregunta. Any other question, like something you didn't know how to say or just felt stumped on or?
Well, one thing that came up in our group is if you have two hobbies, would it be mis pasatiempos?
Sí, 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 sí.
And then so one would be mi pasatiempos, even
Sí.
though pasatiempos
Sí.
is kind of hobbies already.
Mis pasatiempos, sí. Mis pasatiempos, sí. Así es, sí. Mis pasatiempos son, por ejemplo, mis pasatiempos son probar comida exótica, trying exotic food, y andar en bicicleta, montar en bicicleta. ¿Ok? Bike riding. Por ejemplo, sí, mis pasatiempos. They had a little typo in one of those videos. They said, mi pasatiempo es, and then it was mis pasatiempos. And if it's plural, yeah, si es plural, it should have been a mis pasatiempos. Sí, así es. Buena pregunta, Juanita. Sí, ok. Otra pregunta. Sí o no, sí o no. Nada, no, no. No, nada. Ustedes son inteligentes. Okay. Okay, bien. So here's how we're going to up the game for next week, but I can't just throw you back out into the Zoom rooms to do this right now, because some of you will probably want to contemplate this a little bit and will probably want a little more background before you go out and do this. Okay. And there are different ways you can take this, but in a nutshell, here it is. See, la semana que viene, la próxima semana, ¿sí? Hoy es el 14 de septiembre, ¿verdad? Ok, pero el 21 de septiembre, ¿sí? The 21st, la semana que viene, next week. Quiero que ustedes regresen. I want you to come back. Y quiero que hablen de los pasatiempos. I want you to talk about hobbies otra vez, again. Pero algo un poquito más complicado. And I want you to take this either the direction of, ¿por qué tienes esta actividad como pasatiempo? Why is this your favorite hobby? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? O como alternativo, o díganos, tell us, algo interesante que pasó. Algo interesante que pasó mientras practicabas tu pasatiempo. Either tell us why that's your hobby, your favorite, or something interesting or unusual or odd that happened sometime when you were doing this activity. Okay, see? And for that, we're going to revisit something about past tense to get you prepped, because if what you choose to talk about is something interesting that happened while you were doing your hobby, then we're going to need to have a little bit of review of past tense and why we use it. Okay. And that's why I'm not going to throw you back out to do this tonight, because you're going to need a little time to reflect on this. Okay. Por ejemplo, por ejemplo, voy a darles un ejemplo mío, algo personal, y voy a darles 2 ejemplos. Por ejemplo, mi pasatiempo favorito es montar en bicicleta de montaña. No monto en bicicleta por las calles con carros. No. ¡Ay, qué peligro! No. Ok, pero me encanta montar en bicicleta de montaña, en los parques, en los senderos de los parques. Ok. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué es mi pasatiempo favorito? Me gusta montar en bicicleta de montaña porque me recuerda it reminds me of, me recuerda a esquiar. Me recuerda a esquiar en mi juventud, in my youth. Cuando era joven, when I was young, ¿sí? Más que nada, more than anything, más que nada, me encantaba esquiar durante el invierno y las mociones, los movimientos de esquiar son muy similares, son muy parecidos a los movimientos de montar en bicicleta. Curiosamente, el movimiento de esquiar es muy, el movimiento es muy parecido a los movimientos de montar en bicicleta. Qué curioso, sí, pero es la verdad. Ok. Primer ejemplo. That's my first example. Now, yours can be much shorter than that. Don't think you got to go on and on. If you can, great. Ay, sí, fantástico. Pero, ok. Segundo ejemplo. Una vez, ok. Y es el ejemplo de una cosa curiosa, una cosa rara, a weird thing. Una cosa rara que me pasó a mí, an odd thing that happened to me, ¿sí? Durante el pasatiempo. Ok, una cosa rara, a weird thing. Una vez, mientras montaba en mi bici, ¿qué es mientras?
Meanwhile.
Mientras montaba en mi bici, en el parque de McDowell Mountain, ¿ok? Había una serpiente. Perdón, había una serpiente en pleno sendero, right in the middle of the path. Y yo tuve que saltar.
Tried to jump it.
Saltar. Tuve que saltar con la bicicleta con 2 ruedas. Pum, pum, pum. Tuve que saltar. I had to
Hit the wheels.
Jump
Twice.
I had to jump. Tuve que saltar con las 2 ruedas para evitar sí, para evitar la serpiente.
¿Una cascabel?
Sí.
Ay.
Sí. Me dio Nervios.
Sí.
Muy nervios, ok. Estaba muy, 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 muy nerviosa en esa ocasión. Okay, so you can talk about something weird that happened while doing your hobby one day or why you have that hobby. Okay. Bien, ¿entienden? Understand? Make it as simple as you like. Try to avoid, like the plague, plugging it all into Google Translate. Google Translate. Try to avoid that like the plague. Okay, how can you avoid that like the plague? Avoid it like the plague by just saying, I'm going to talk about this in the present, or I'm going to talk about it in the past. Okay, decide that. That's an A or B choice. Yeah. But all you do is go with the infinitive you want to use and just conjugate it to talk about yo. Yeah. Or if it was somebody else who did something, to talk about him or her, or it, if it was your doggy, or, lo que sea, whatever. All right. It is easier than you think. So don't make it complex. Like, don't say, uy, ¿cómo puedo expresar esto? How can I tell you this? Okay, so don't say, oh my goodness, I was hiking and the bees were attacking, or don't say I was attacked by the bees. No, nada de eso. I was attacked. Oh, now you're going through all kinds of mental gymnastic. I was attacked by the, no. No passive voice. No passive voice. Say the bees attacked me. All you got to look up is atacar. That's all you got to do. Wow. Qué fácil. Qué sencillo. Wow, is that easy? Now look, no more mental gymnastics. Atacar. Ooh, and I say, ooh, is that like a big fluid description, or is that something those bees came and they did? Well, of course, that's something the bees did. So you need pretérito. Sí, las abejas, the bees, me atacaron. Me, they attacked. Boom, no more mental gymnastics. Yeah. So no more the I was attacked by the bees. No mental gymnastics. Make it easy. See, muy fácil. And if you have questions during the week, unless it's like 20 minutes before I start class, I might not see it then. But other than that, yeah, ask me. You need a couple of, necesitas una pista. You need a clue. Shoot me a quick email, and I can do that. Okay, bien, entienden, understand? And you got a whole week to think about this. And if you're like most people, you'll think about it, maybe the day before. Está bien. That's okay. Está bien. Es así. It's like that. La vida es así. Life is like that. Okay. Vale. But we're going to do a little reminder of what it means to use past tense if you need to do that. And you know what? If you feel you can't use past tense, está bien, it's okay. Then take that pressure off of yourselves. Take it off. But if you say, oh, I know a little past tense and I can use it, we're going to do this little reminder because this kind of tries to reduce past tense to some simple ideas, okay? Entonces, la nueva lección para esta noche, our new lesson for tonight, is to do a really quick refresher. If you're comfortable with that, and if you've never seen it before, you'll learn a little bit tonight, but don't feel you have to put into use about why is it hard to use past tense in Spanish?
I have two of them.
The conjugations are.
Of course you have two of them. Oh, those,
They're different,
those
right?
damn conjugations. I know. Just say it. Yes.
And
Okay.
all the irregular verbs.
And all the
Right,
irregular.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So why is past hard? Past is hard in Spanish. Okay. You know what? And I'm going to tell you, it's not hard if you are a native French speaker. Well, not so hard. And it's because they got that same thing going on. They have similar concepts. I think even in German, there are similar concepts. So not for all people learning Spanish is it hard, but for those of us who grew up with English, oh, please, it is a stinker. It is a stinker because we got not one, but two past tenses in Spanish, okay? But he's going to show you a little of this. And if you've never seen it before, just, relájate, relax and let it kind of wash over you because you're not going to be like a master of it immediately. But we've got two past tenses. So the nutshell, the core of it is that we have one kind of past tense that tells us, oh, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And that's an event-oriented past tense. And there's a fancy word for it called pretérito, preterite, and it means something happened. And it means it happened and it was over, and it was very easy to put it in a little box of, oh, this happened one time, okay? And we use pretérito, we use it, and it is necessary. We use it when we talk about things that happened one time, or to tell like a sequence of, oh, this happened, then this happened, okay? But then we've got this other past tense, and it has a totally different set of conjugations, and it's called imperfecto, which sounds like imperfect, and yes, it means imperfect. And it is called imperfect simply because it didn't happen just once. It is used to describe, not to say this happened, this happened, this happened, but to say things like, oh, I was so sad. Oh, I was so tired. I was so happy. To talk about feelings because they're descriptions. To talk about how old we were because that's a description. And to talk about habits or things that you did like over and over again, a lot. You did it so much, you don't even know how much you did it, just a lot. But it was a habit. So those use imperfecto. So we're going to watch a little video that just reminds you of those two. And if you've never seen it before, relájate, relájate, relax, and just kind of let it wash over you. It's okay, está bien. But this will give you a little primer, quickie review.
You're going to get an overview of the preterite and imperfect tenses in Spanish. Both of these are used to talk about things that happened in the past, but the differences can be kind of subtle and confusing and can create.
Okay, and all those things that scroll up the screen way too fast, they mean they are different forms.
This can be kind of subtle and confusing.
These are two different paths for the same verb. So estaba, I was, and estuve, preterite, an event. And you know what? You'll hear it as estaba way more than you hear it as estuve, more common. Tenía, I had, versus tuve, I got, preterite. Again, tener, way more frequent. Decía, somebody was saying, versus dije, I said. Oh, you know what? In that case, dije, I said, is way more common because, what do? You said, and over with. It's an event. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to let him go.
And can create misunderstandings sometimes. So in this video, I want to give you 2 stories plus 1 simple exercise to help you start to wrap your head around the differences between the two and when to use them. We're going to look at the stories first and then explain the grammar behind them. Unfortunately, the way that most people go about learning how to use these tenses is by memorizing a whole bunch of situations and a whole bunch of conjugations, and then getting really stressed when they're trying to use it all in conversation with somebody else. Don't do that. My goal here is to give you a simple overview help you
Oh, look, a
get an idea
50-50
for how this
tree.
all works. And then it's up to you to go practice. That way, when you are speaking with somebody else, you can just sort of let the grammar happen in the background, not think about it too much, and let the words come out and just enjoy the fact that you're speaking Spanish. So first, picture a timeline of an afternoon of yours on vacation. Say you're at the beach. You spent the afternoon on the beach and somebody asks you, what did you do today?
A
¿Qué
day.
hiciste hoy? What did you do today?
What did you
And you
do?
reply, estuve toda la tarde en la playa. I was on the beach for the whole afternoon.
I spent the
Period.
afternoon.
End of story. Didn't go into detail, talk about anything else that happened. In this case, we'll use the preterite, the simple past tense. Estuve, I was. Now let's take a different story, a different take on the same situation. Say you spent the afternoon on the beach, but this time you are telling somebody about your afternoon. A few more things are going on. A couple things interrupt what happened.
And now we want
and in general, there's
details.
just more to tell. In this case, we're going to mix up the two tenses. So you might start by saying, estaba en la playa y hacía mucho calor, así que me metí al agua. Estaba en el agua, pero tuve que salir porque el salvavidas vio un tiburón. Así que estuve solo una media hora en el agua. We use the imperfect of these verbs. Estaba en la playa. I was on the beach. Hacía mucho calor.
Because that's setting the
It was really hot.
scene.
To talk about the situation broadly, to set the scene. We use the preterite in this case, me metí, tuve, vio, estuve, to describe things that came and went that sort of interrupted the scene. Tuve que salir, I had to get out, the one time. El salvavidas vio, the lifeguard saw, the once. Estuve una media hora en el agua. I was in the water for half an hour, a fixed time frame. Now let's look at a second scenario where you might have to choose between these two verb forms. Picture a timeline of your childhood this time. And imagine that you're telling a story about something
Longer
that you
period
used to
of time.
do often. For
La
example,
niñez,
cuando era
childhood.
niño, siempre estaba contento de ir a la playa. Íbamos todos los años y nos quedábamos una semana allí. Pero una vez, cuando tenía 11 o 12 años, hubo un huracán enorme y no pudimos ir. Me sentí muy decepcionado. We use the imperfect in this scenario, era, estaba, íbamos, and so on, to talk about the things that we used to do with some regularity or that used to happen regularly. Basically,
A habit.
stuff that happened repeatedly in the past. Cuando era niño, when I was a kid, broadly, siempre estaba, I was always, íbamos todos los años, we would go or we used to go every year. But we use the preterite to talk about things that came and kind of interrupted the normal sequence of events. Hubo un huracán. There
Oh,
was a
it
hurricane.
happened.
No pudimos ir. We couldn't go. Me sentí decepcionado. I felt disappointed. These are all things that interrupted the normal sequence. There was one hurricane. We couldn't go the once, and I felt disappointed the once. Now, these two stories are just an overview of this broad concept that you're going to come across over and over in Spanish, if you haven't already. And right now, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed by all the stuff that it seems like there is to know about it. One thing to know is that as you go, the more you listen to Spanish and are surrounded by it, you'll develop more of an intuition for when to use one versus the other, and you won't have to think about it really consciously. Instead, it'll just be automatic. And the first step towards actually being able to use this in an automatic way is to practice. Practice on your own without the pressure of having somebody else in front of you. Create a story of your own, 1 to 2 sentences long, about something that happened yesterday or last week, or something that you did repeatedly in the past. Leave your story in the comments and I'll be happy to.
Okay, bien. So that's the end of that. That's just a little precursor. Now, if you've never had past tense, then please choose to talk about your hobby, not using an event, but that gives you a little idea. I'm going to also send you a link for this week. That one is pretty nice because he's got both the Spanish and then the English translation, right? To help you out with that. I'm going to send you another link that talks about the some of the most high frequency verbs. And she'll just show you a bunch of charts so that if you are more of a newbie or you just feel intense fear, about using past tense. You can see them in a chart form because some people are just comfortable with that and they want to see, what does this verb do? Okay. So they're going to talk about verbs that people use a lot when they chit chat. Okay. This is the second one is going to be kind of a longish video. She's going to speak a lot just in Spanish. So if the only thing that you're comfortable doing is just going through those charts, so it's a reminder of what those preterite and imperfect verbs look like, está bien, that's good. Okay. If you use it just as a reference, that's good. But she's going to go through verbs like and show you how we use them in each of these past. And she's going to show you the present too, for things like estar, for things like tener, for things like llegar, because we talk about getting to a place, yeah? For verbs like llevar, meaning you take something somewhere. For verbs like poder, to be able to, yeah? For verbs like tener, to have. How many times you say, I had? A gazillion times in a day, yeah? So she's going to take, ¿cuántos verbos hay? Quizás 10, maybe 10 verbs. And if you don't understand everything she says, that's okay. But if you choose just to use it to say, oh, here are those charts where I've got all these forms, you can start to get familiar with what those forms are or review what those forms are. Sí, está bien. Are we good with that?
Sí.
Bien? Okay. And that may give you some little tools in your toolbox to work some of those in, maybe for next week's hobby prep. Bien? ¿Vale?
Sí.
Ok. ¿Todos entienden? ¿Entienden ustedes sí o no?
Sí.
¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any question about what you'll need to do to prep? Because you will need more than 5 minutes for doing that one, yeah? We'll need more than 5 minutes to talk with each other for that. I would hope. Espero que sí. And well, actually, I gave you my little example. Okay. Bien. Okay. Vale. Nos quedan 15 minutos. We've got 15 minutes. Oh, this is about perfect. Okay. We're going to end up with one other little story. And I want you to listen to the story and we will come back and see how much of the story you understood. This is very current events. Ooh. This is very current events, but he is going to talk. Oh, and it says intermediate. Isn't that scary? This video is going to say intermediate.
Except for Janet.
But you know what? Because it's current event, you're going to understand a lot of it. You really will, more than you think. And I will tell you, when I saw this, this was kind of clickbait. When I saw this one, I've got to see what this guy has to say, because this guy is really not a traditionalist person per se, really. So his attitude surprised me a little. Me sorprendió un poquito, but I bet you're going to understand a lot of what he has to say. So I'm going to just play it and then we'll come back and see how much you understood. You'll get the link for this later if you want to listen to it yet one more time. It's not quite as simple as all the videos I send you for homework. So that's why we're going to listen to it together and then see what you did get, what you didn't get. And okay, así es, so it is. Okay, va a hablar.
Vaya noticia, muy súbita, muy
Sudden,
inesperada.
súbita, inesperada, unexpected.
Pues sí, ha muerto la reina del Reino Unido, Isabel II, descanse en paz, y
May she
ha
rest in
pasado a ser
peace.
rey su hijo, Carlos III. Y sí, los llamamos Isabel y Carlos, aunque no son sus nombres originales en inglés, porque antiguamente se traducían los nombres de las personas
Before they used to
importantes.
translate
Ahora no,
names.
por eso los hijos de Carlos se llaman William y Henry, igual que en inglés, ¿no?
Henry.
En inglés, a la reina Isabel I se la llama Isabella, Isabel la llaman Isabela, pero Elizabeth la llamamos Isabel. No sé por qué a Isabel no la llamaban Elizabeth, pero bueno. Pero en inglés, eso, en inglés era lo mismo. A Isabel la llamaban Isabela, pero ahora no. Ahora el rey de España es Felipe, no es Philip en inglés. Entonces, Isabel, en el momento de su muerte, era el monarca, el rey o reina, con un reinado más largo. El rey o reina vivo que llevaba más tiempo reinando. Llevaba ya 70 años, más de 70 años. Y había sido el monarca con un reinado más largo desde 2016. Desde que en 2016 murió el rey de Tailandia, que en aquel momento también llevaba 7 años reinando
No,
en Tailandia.
70.
Llevaba 70 años, pero en total estuvo menos tiempo, menos días que Isabel II. Y los 70 años de reinado, 70 años y pico de reinado de Isabel II,
Y pico means
es
about.
el segundo reinado más largo de la historia humana que conozcamos. Es el segundo después del rey Luis XIV de Francia. Y sí, y a las personas de nuestra generación nos parece que la reina Isabel es eterna, ¿no? Porque para nosotros ha sido reina toda la vida. Cuando nosotros nacimos, la reina Isabel ya era una anciana, ya era una abuelita.
A little old
Y ha sido
lady.
una abuelita durante toda mi vida. Entonces, ya sabíamos que esto tenía que pasar, ya sabíamos que tarde o temprano la reina tenía que morir. Pero aún así, ha sido muy repentino, ha sido muy de golpe, porque no sabíamos que la reina estuviese enferma, no sabíamos que estuviese mal. Y bueno, su muerte ha disparado, ha activado la operación London Bridge. Operación London Bridge suena un poco como a nombre de película de 007, pero en verdad es algo
007.
más triste. Se refiere simplemente al protocolo del funeral y todas las preparaciones y actividades del funeral, del luto, todo lo relacionado con la muerte de la reina Isabel. Que bueno, como cualquier protocolo de la Casa Real Británica, está todo muy detallado, muy específico, los pasos que tienen que hacer, quién, cómo, qué tienen que decir. Y bueno, la reina parece que murió tranquila, por lo menos la Casa Real ha anunciado que la reina murió tranquila. Murió en el castillo, en Escocia, donde pasa las vacaciones de verano, donde descansa durante el verano. Y bueno, el papel de la reina y ahora del rey es puramente simbólico, es un símbolo, aunque técnicamente sea el jefe de Estado, pero es un papel sobre todo simbólico. Y la reina no daba su opinión sobre política, sobre asuntos sociales. Es un poco un tabú, es algo que se supone que no tiene que hacer. Y durante su vida parece que la mayoría de los británicos, la mayoría de ciudadanos del Reino Unido, la apoyaron, eran favorables a ella, tenía una tasa de aprobación muy alta, incluida Australia, que en Australia en 1999 se votó en un referéndum y escogieron que Australia no fuera una república, escogieron seguir teniendo a la reina. Aunque ha habido periodos en los que la popularidad de la reina o la aprobación de la reina ha disminuido, sobre todo por problemas de sus hijos, problemas con los divorcios de sus hijos, con la muerte de Lady Di, ¿no?, de la princesa
Lady Di.
Diana. Y bueno, luego ha habido criticismo general de la monarquía. Pero esto es algo normal hoy en día en una sociedad moderna. Es normal que la monarquía se considere algo desfasado, algo del pasado, pero aún así la reina Isabel contaba con más aprobación que la monarquía. Y sí que es verdad que durante su reinado, la reina Isabel hizo algunos cambios para modernizar la casa real, para modernizar la familia real. Abrieron más sus comunicaciones con la prensa, empezaron a pagar impuestos y, por ejemplo, abrió el Palacio de Buckingham para los turistas, para que la gente pudiera visitarlo. Entonces, sí, a partir de ahora el rey es Carlos III, Carlos III de 73 años. Ha empezado a reinar con 73 años, que técnicamente ya en el momento en que murió la reina se ha hecho rey, pero que todavía no ha hecho la ceremonia de coronación. La coronación del rey se hará más adelante y reinará con su mujer, con la reina consorte Camila. Y bueno, es una noticia, os la he traído tan rápido como he podido, es una noticia triste, pero bueno, en el siguiente vídeo hablaremos de cosas más divertidas.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about more fun things later. Okay, a ver. Bueno, ¿qué entendieron ustedes de ese video? What did you understand about that and what did you not? ¿Qué entendieron, sí entendieron y qué no entendieron?
Was he saying Isabel and Elizabeth are the same name?
Sí, that one es un poco confuso. That little segment was a little bit confusing. What he was saying is that in olden days, yeah, see, you know, they used to make all the names Spanish. For some reason, Elizabeth the First, going back to Shakespeare times, was called Isabella, but this Isabel was called Isabel. And he doesn't really know why. Yeah. But now, now they just take like whatever your name is, they don't Spanishize it anymore. So in other words, his kids, although, you know, if you're talking about Charles's kids, like William, Guillermo es William, but they no longer say Guillermo. In olden days, they would have translated into Spanish, but now they just say, hey, look, that's your name, William. But you know, you'll notice it's always William. Y Henry. How'd you get the, yeah, Henry. Okay. Buena pregunta. Good question. See? What else did you understand from what he said?
So in Spain, they would have called her La Reina Isabel.
Isabel, but nowadays, whoever comes late, and Carlos is called Carlos Charles, but when it comes to William's turn, they call it William. They do not give him the Guillermo Spanish name. They say, hey, whatever language your name is in, that's what we should use.
Your name is your name. Yeah.
Exactly. Exacto.
But he talked about how long she was queen.
How long she was queen.
70 years.
70 years. And he talked about that compared to
the King of Thailand.
King of Thailand. And then he made a mistake. He said 7 years. You're allowed to make mistakes. How about that? Yeah. 70 when he really meant 70. Yeah. He talked about King of Thailand. He talked about
Louis the 14th.
Louis the 14th. What else did you get from what he talked about? ¿Qué más?
I wasn't sure about Australia, whether in 1999 they took a vote and decided to keep the queen or they didn't. I kind of wasn't sure.
See, okay. But see, you got that they took a vote. Yes. And that they were, and what it turned out was that, yes, they're going to keep, that they voted to keep the queen. See.
I wonder if they'll vote again now.
Qué buena pregunta. No
I think the queen's
sabemos.
personality had a lot to do with decisions like that.
Es difícil.
Charles is not as popular.
Es difícil.
That's
Okay.
an understatement, I think.
Sí. Okay.
Well, it costs a lot of money.
Y la gente tiene opiniones muy fuertes. ¿Sí? A mi esposo
No importa.
le da igual. He could care less. Le da igual. It's all the same to him. See? hoy en día, ¿sí? Mientras nosotros íbamos al parque para montar en bicicleta, ¿sí? Mi esposo vio la bandera en el pueblo y estaba a media asta. It was at,
Half staff.
sí, y mi esposo me preguntó,
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué está media asta la bandera? ¿Por qué? ¿Quién murió? Who died? It sounds like a thing out of Moonstruck, yeah? Who died? Yeah. ¿Quién
Right.
murió? ¿Quién murió? ¡Uy! Idiota, la reina. ¿No recuerdas? Sí, la reina. Uy, sí. Él me dijo, él me dijo, mi esposo me dijo, pero no es nuestra reina. ¿Por qué? ¿Y por qué? Y yo le dije, porque Inglaterra, Gran Bretaña es un país importante para muchos estadounidenses. Sí, nuestra historia y la historia de Inglaterra, sí, las historias de los dos países, sí, las historias están relacionadas, están conectadas hasta cierto punto. Me da igual, no es nuestra reina. Bueno, sí, entonces, les pregunté a mis hijos, mis dos hijos, ¿sí? ¿Qué piensan ustedes? La pobre reina. Me sorprendió mucho, ¿sí? Yo pensaba, yo pensaba, oh, qué lástima, qué triste, la pobre abuelita. Oh, no. Ay, los dos son anarquistas. Me dijeron, no, ella, que no me importa mucho, mamá, no me importa mucho. Oh, pero es triste, ¿no? Pero ella era alguien de una época durante la colonización. Y a ella no le importaba mucho los derechos de los indígenas de las colonias. Bueno, entonces, pero yo les dije a mis hijos, pero era abuelita, era una anciana. Y ellos me dijeron, pero colonización, mamá, la colonización no. Era algo muy, muy, muy malo. Y ella sí sabía, she knew. Bueno, entonces hay opiniones muy fuertes, ¿no? Aún con eso, even with this, yeah. And I told them, be nice. Okay, so. Okay, pero es así. But see, you got a lot of what he was saying, right?
Yeah.
And he said the coronation won't be for a long time.
He said the coronation.
They wait a year.
The coronation won't be for a long time. What else did you get or maybe not get?
Didn't get that.
There was
Something
some
about the
trouble in
bridge.
the monarchy, Lady Di, and divorces and things.
Oh, yeah. Okay. He talked a little bit. There was one little term, which is actually an interesting term for you guys to learn. La tasa de aprobación. You know that probar means to try something out. Yeah. Like taste something or try it on if you're trying on clothes. But la tasa means a rate. And tasa de aprobación means approval rating. So he was talking about her approval rating was pretty high. Oh, with that exception of,
Yeah.
Lady Di.
Horses and Lady Di.
yeah, the whole thing with Lady Di, that was kind of a dip.
Prince Andrew.
Oh, the funny uncle of,
Jeffrey Epstein.
yeah, the funny uncle of the rich and famous. Oh my God. Yeah. Ooh, that one hurts. That one hurts. Yeah. You fool around with the Epstein types of the world. Oh my God, that's not good. Well, you can see why the younger generation is kind of like, how am I to feel about this? Yeah. Because there are some negatives with this too. Yeah. So anyway, sí, tasa de aprobación, her approval rating. Yeah. Talked about that as well. Okay. ¿Qué más? ¿Qué más? Any other things you didn't understand about that? Sí, no, sí, no. Okay. Bien. Vale. I am going to also give you a couple videos to watch, which are just fun and super easy to understand. They're going to have translation in Spanish and subtitles in English, both on the same screen. You don't have to click on any other buttons. And they're going to talk about some trips. Yeah. And they're going to show you, again, it'll be a good thing, whether you understand past tense or not. No importa, doesn't matter, because you're going to have the translations there on screen. They're going to talk about, or you will hear examples, which is the most important thing you can do, is listen to lots of examples of how people talk in the past. And they're both going to talk about trips, traveling. They're going to talk about events that happened during trips. Both of them are very outdoorsy kind of things. And so kind of notice and just get a feel for how they talk about good and scary and bad things that happened during some adventurous travels. See, bien? So look at this as a storytelling, dive in and just let the stories wash over you and take a look at some of the verbs they use to figure out, oh, is it a description or is it an event? It happened, it happened, it happened. And any questions you have about those little two easy to understand videos, come on back with it. ¿Sí? ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Sí.
Excelente, excelente. And the homework videos you're going to have are, she speaks very, very slowly and very, very clearly. So it'll be easy for you to understand those. Okay. Sin problema. Sin ningún problema. With no problem at all. Okay. Bien, bien.
Bien.
Hey.
Fantástico. If you have any other vocabulary topics or grammar topics that you want to include during the fall, feel free to email them to me. I will send you the email of all the links you need for what we used tonight, for what you should do to prep for some conversation in smaller groups next week in an email that you'll get tomorrow, mañana. ¿Está bien?
Está bien. Gracias.
Excelente,
Gracias.
excelente, excelente. So you'll get to come back and talk about your hobbies, but some other stuff. Y gracias.
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 Muchas
Adiós.
gracias.